Take a look at the opening hands here, and this, of course, is also really important because the way we play Duo Standard is the decks are chosen at random for game one, and it looks like Savjz has mono white.
Yeah, he's on the draw, which is, ideally you'd be on the play, and he's up against Esper Control.
He's up against Esper Control. It could have been the red deck for Strasky, not considered a great matchup for that white deck, but it is, in fact, Esper Control. Is this hand just too slow?
Yeah, Strasky agrees. He's going to ship that one back, but, I mean, this hand, he's going to go ahead and set his settings up. This hand's not a lot better. He doesn't have black mana. He doesn't have a basic land type, so his lands are going to come into play tap. So unless he draws some land, it's going to be delayed for that search for his Kanta. Luckily, he's on the play, so he won't fall too far behind if he's up against the aggro deck. I think right now with this hand, though, he's hoping he's up in the Esper Mirror. Disable emotes.
I like it. He's kind of going through and checking every possible box one thing at a time.
Yeah, Glogowski's use of the emotes has taught these players. Started off, shut that off.
Nice.
Shut that down.
Thinking. Oops. All right, land go here.
So Savjz did mulligan the hand we saw earlier. Now he has 2 land, a couple 1-drops. Unbreakable formations will be nice if he's up against Kaya's Wrath.
Yeah, he just needs a little more oomph in this opener right now. He's only going to have 4 power total. Hello, Benalish Marshall off the top of the library is a good one, though he is going to need to find a 3rd land to cast it.
Hollow Fountain was a huge draw for Strasky there. It allowed him to play Search on curve, and now his Glacial Forest is coming to play untapped, so that he'll be able to cast Absorb without taking 2 more damage.
Okay, big turns coming up here for both of our players in the early stages. The land drops are really important. Savjz particularly can't cast a single spell in his hand unless he hits another land off the top of the library. And while it's a decent start with the 3/3 drops, it's only 4 power. It's something that Strasky might be able to manage. And another Snubhorn Sentry is not going to add any power to the board here for Savjz. So we could see mana issues early.
Sending a message with the Snubhorn Sentry.
Oh, I like it.
Get in there. Isolated Chapel was a really big draw for Strasky. He does want to hit his land drops and get to that Teferi, but it also gives him a black mana in case he draws some black cards. He's able to cast them.
Savjz tanking it out a little bit on whether to run out the second copy of the Snubhorn Millionaire there. He does go for it, though.
Yeah, he knows Strasky's deck list, and Strasky's only playing 2 Kaya's Wraths. He has 3 Cry the Carnariums instead. Snubhorn Sentry's a little bit bigger.
Ooh, and look at this. A Moment of Craving, a card that you mentioned before, David, is a potentially key card in a matchup like this, as it allows you to buffer your life total a little bit while taking a threat off the battlefield. Venerated Loxodon was the draw step, though, for Savjz, and he has set himself up beautifully for the big elephant to hit the battlefield. He's already got 4 creatures, each of which can pick up a counter.
Yeah, he can still attack for 2 if he wants, put a counter on the elephants, one of the other 2 ones, and use 2 lands. I think we're going to see this get absorbed here, though.
Yeah, regardless of that, the Absorb sitting in hand for Strasky has found a beautiful target, as Convoke is going to allow the Venerated Loxodon to go on the stack, even though Savjz is sitting on only 2 lands right now.
Yeah, right now he's deciding if he wants to tap all the creatures and give them a counter, potentially, or attack with 1 and use the lands. 2 damage could end up being huge here with your opponent at 12. He does present lethal if he taps all the creatures for it, though. Although he does if he attacks for 2 also.
Yeah, so this is a big reversal here now. At least he managed to keep the 2 damage coming in, but with the 3 life gained, Strasky's going to end this sequence with the same board state, but up a life over where he did when he passed a turn back. He's still digging for lands here off of this search for his Kanta. Oh, and here we go, Kaya's Wrath. Can he afford to keep that on top?
Yeah, it's a really tough spot. I don't think he can, because there's no guarantee the black mana is coming. I mean, he does have a Chemister's Insight.
Good here,
he does have a Chemister's Insight he could cast this turn. He's at 13, only facing 4 damage to go to 9. So it's possible you can keep it.
This is a huge decision now for Ondrej Strasky very early in the game. Is he going to try to craft his game plan around Kaya's Wrath, needing to find that second black mana source? And he is.
I think so. With Chemister's Insight, you've got a couple shots at finding a basic land, plus your draw step, plus you can search. So you're looking at the next 4 cards.
Is there a land finally? There's a land now for Savjz. That's a big draw for him. It opens up the other cards in his hand and also leaves him the opportunity to potentially foil the plan from Strasky. Although if he runs out the Benalish Marshall and Strasky finds a black mana source, oof.
Well, his opponent didn't play a land last turn, so he knows he knows Strasky doesn't have 1 in hand. The question is, will he find it? And if he does find it, does he even have the Wrath? Having only 2 in his deck, it's not likely.
It's also interesting to think about what's going through Savjz's head when you see your opponent say, search for his Kanta, I'll keep it on top, go.
Yeah.
Right, no land drop.
But if you play this Marshal here and your opponent casts Chaos Wrath next turn, it's backbreaking. You've got nothing left but two spells that really don't do anything in this spot.
This could be the huge moment here in game one between these players, as Benalish Marshall is going to resolve, and Strasky's in an interesting position. He could take 3, 6, 7, 8 damage, drop down to 5, and cast Chemister's Insight in a desperate act, try to find that untapped black mana source, but it looks like he's going to take a little bit less damage here and take down one of these Sky Marcher aspirants. Does this also keep the number of permanents favorable? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7?
The reason he did it there is, I guess, to stop potentially Loxodon, because there would be 5 untapped creatures, and if you let that resolve, then he could just tap them. I mean, I don't think you worry about that happening.
And there it is, Isolated Chapel on the top of the library for Ondrej Strasky. He plays it and slams Kaya's Wrath, and look at the look on Savjz's face. He can't believe it. This is not the way this game wanted to go, and Strasky says, I think I'll take this moment to have a little sip of my beverage. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's also interesting because by casting the Moment of Craving, he didn't Chemister's Insight, so he limited his chances at finding that black mana.
He still had 2 looks thanks to the search for his Kanta, but he found it in the first one, and now a land off the top means that Savjz has literally no pressure on the battlefield whatsoever. He desperately needs to find some action, and he needs to do it quickly because look at that. Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, set to come down this very turn, David. This one could be over quickly.
Yeah, Savjz is probably kicking himself. You know, he wishing he'd held up one of those unbreakable formations. It's really unfortunate when you lose a game and you're holding the card that could have saved you, but you didn't cast it. So,
gosh, extra bad here. He has 2 of them. It's just super annoying.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a little unlucky there. If Strasky doesn't find the black mana, he's feeling like a champ right now, attacking for the win. So
totally, and that is the type of decision that you need to make when you play these mono white decks. They are not forgiving. Yet, when it goes awry, it is ugly, and boy, no luck here at all for Savjz. He's going to find another land off the top of the library and has to pass back. Again, no creatures at all. Nothing in sight here for Savjz, and he finds himself woefully behind a Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. That is the type of card. We call it snowballs, right? I mean, it just gets out of hand so quickly.
Yeah, it's hard. Once a Teferi gets going, if you don't have any pressure and have anything threatening your opponent's life total, if it's low, or the Teferi's loyalty, you don't have long to be in the game. It's pretty tough to overcome a Teferi.
Chemister's Insight main phase here because he gets to untap a couple of these lands. Could have found him something like Zorb or something like that. And he's going to pass the turn back rather than casting Thought Erasure there. What did he find off the top? A Tithe Taker. Okay, fine. That is something. It's not 0.
Yeah, I mean, it will take a couple of removal spells or a Teferi's Tuck to fully deal with it.
Strasky not interested in any more. Cancel that order. There's Cry of the Carnarium, the perfect answer. Remember, Cry of the Carnarium exiles any creatures that went to the graveyard this turn, and that means a Tithe Taker will not trigger that Afterlife ability, and it's just a clean 1-for-1, as we call it.
He's going to start off with a Thought Erasure. Unlikely his opponent has anything, but
yeah, this is just Strasky being very careful, right? He's making sure that the way is clear, and he sees probably what he expected, something along the lines of 2 spells that either don't do anything or even a couple of lands. So here we go. Cry of the Carnarium is going to take care of Tithe Taker and keep that Teferi train rolling, and there's really no way out here for Savjz from this point.
Yeah, the Teferi trigger is going to give him 4 mana available, so he can activate Azcanta the Sunken Ruin if he doesn't need to cast anything. He's got a couple of negates in hand, which is going to easily take care of History of Benalia here. 2 Mortifies and a Vraska's Contempt can take care of any creatures.
I mean, History of Benalia is one of Savjz's best draws, and right now, Ondrej Strasky had 4 answers to it. He has two Mortifies and 2 negates in his hand. This one not going Savjz's way at all. It all came down to that critical turn where Strasky found that second black mana source, and was able to deploy that Kaya's Wrath, and that's going to do it. Game number 1 goes to Ondrej Strasky.
I still wonder about the casting the Moment of Craving there. I mean, I feel like you have to give yourself the most chances to find black mana, because if you don't, you die. Even with that Moment of Craving, he still was basically dead if he didn't find the black mana. You have to find it either way. I don't know why you wouldn't give yourself the most chances you can.
You wanted him to cast the Chemister's Insight.
I truly believe you have to cast Chemister's Insight there.
But it worked out a lot of shots, right? You draw the 2 cards there. And then after you do that, you get your Search for Azcanta trigger. You could go 4 cards deep.
4 cards deep to find one. Whereas by casting that Moment of Craving, he only allowed himself 2 shots at it. So you get double the chances to basically put yourself in the position we just saw. And if you don't find it, you pretty much lose the game. very solid hand for Savjz on the play. A couple Teferis, but Kaya's good. The exile ability of a 1-drop can easily take care of cards like Get To Lava Runner, Fanatical Firebrand.
Okay, Lava Runner turn 1 here for Ondrej Strasky. Just a couple of lands on the battlefield thus far for Savjz.
Yeah, Strasky's hand is a little slow, a little clunky. You know, you started with a 1-drop, but it's only a 1/2 because there's not any spells in the graveyard yet. If he plays the Get To Lava Runner, he could also cast Light Up the Stage here. He's got a few options, but again, this hand isn't super fast. Doesn't have a lot of burn. Doesn't have any burn.
Legion Warboss. Like that one. He's going to go with Runaway Steamkin, the type of card that can charge up one insane turn.
Yeah, Savjz is not running any Cry of the Carnarium, so he doesn't have to worry about land sweeper on this turn. Only way he can remove multiple creatures is Kaya's Wrath in the main deck.
Land number 3 hits the battlefield here for Savjz.
Yeah, and while Strasky's can is a little slow, he really could have used the 3rd land here. The Steamkins, they do power up with the spells you cast, but they also encourage you to put more spells on the battlefield, which kind of walks you into Kaya's Wrath. So it's a little dangerous, a little delicate game here. I think we're going to see Light Up the Stage, maybe try to find a land.
He's kind of Runaway Steamkin flooded here. He's got 3 of them now, 1 on the battlefield, 2 in hand. That is a lot of action.
Yeah, they do work well in multiples. You keep stacking spells, and the counters can just stagger, and you can cast multiple spells a turn by removing the counters. With Experimental Frenzy, it can get really crazy. We've seen that a few times this weekend.
And there it is, Kaya's Wrath now for Savjz. So he says, I can play that game too, Mr. Strasky. I've got Kaya's Wrath in my deck, wiping away the 3 creatures that were already there.
I think I would have went with the Light Up the Stage there, try to find a land, get a little card advantage back.
Yeah, he was trying to set up for some absurd turn the next turn. Oh, no.
Still no land.
A bit of a disaster here for Ondrej Strasky. He fires off a shock just to get the 2 damage in and get that spectacle cost going on Light Up the Stage, and he finds another shock and a Firebrand. Now, the good news for him is that he can cast both of those next turn, but really wanted to see a land.
Yeah, and Kaya's especially huge here because of the ability gives him 2 life when he exiles a creature, which there happen to be in the graveyard. So not only is the loyalty really high right now, but he's gaining life, and he has the ability to exile creatures with one converted mana casting cost. But by casting the shock, there's 2 instants in the graveyard. The Lava Runner has haste, and he can take down the Kaya.
But it's a little awkward because he had to strand that Fanatical Firebrand in exile, and he's never going to get a chance to cast that again, the one that he hit off of the Light Up the Stage.
Yeah.
But he needed to get Kaya off the battlefield. You do what you got to do, and he's going to give away a little bit of value to do so. And Strasky does not look happy about this. Here's Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, now on the battlefield for Savjz. So really nice back-to-back turns there, Planeswalker into Planeswalker.
Yeah, and an untapped 2 land, so now he's got Syncopate for 1, which normally against the red deck on turn 5, Syncopate for 1 is not usually going to get a lot of value, but with your opponent not hitting land drops, it's potentially, if you were to say play Chain Whirler or Legion Warboss here, likely Chain Whirler since it's post-combat, Syncopate for 1 is a really nice answer for that.
Yeah, and look at this, getting some sick value from Syncopate here. Chain Whirler was going to knock Teferi's loyalty down 1 more to 2. Try to set it up for next turn to kill him, but instead he gets the plus and keep his Planeswalker at pretty hefty 4 loyalty here.
Yeah, and he's got a handful of Mortifies he can cast, or now he just found a Moment of Craving, which can take down the Get To Lava Runner, give him 2 life back, protect his Teferi. The fact that Strasky missed those land drops and had sort of a clunky hand where he couldn't get a lot of permanents on the board, and then got Kaya's Wrath, really gave Savjz the time to get in this position where he seems to be okay. 17, 6 land, 5 cards in hand, a Planeswalker on 4.
Yeah, interesting little decision on end step there from Savjz. He had to decide if he wanted to use the Moment of Craving now, and that would take the only wizard off the battlefield and make Wizard's Lightning a full price spell. But you can also kind of force your opponent to make a decision otherwise and just say go, and then you have to say, hey, do you want to attack me or Teferi? Okay. You can get a little bit of information out of that. But as it stands, he did it on his main phase. He doesn't have anything for 2 mana, so the untapped lands aren't really helping him out here. But this is Legion Warboss now from Strasky.
Legion Warboss is a really powerful card, especially against control decks, because it allows you, it just continually generates threats. So you don't have to play anything else. You don't have to walk into mass removal spells. You can play a Frenzy next turn and still be protected sort of from a Kaya's Wrath without having to play any more creatures. Luckily for Savjz, he has a couple Mortifies. Mortify was a huge reprint for Standard, because Experimental Frenzy, normally Mortify would just be an overcosted removal for a one converted mana cost creature, but it actually deals with Frenzy really nicely. So Mortify's very huge in this matchup.
Yeah, Mortify's ability to take down effectively any creature is really powerful in and of itself, but boy, that extra text certainly matters here.
Yeah,
this is the way that this game would go, right?
He has to Vraska's Contempt before Strasky goes to combat, or he would get a trigger from the War Boss, which would generate another 1/1 Goblin.
And once again, Strasky trying to manage, and here he goes. He's going to fire off the Experimental Frenzy, and he even gets lucky here and hits a land off the top, though the Wizard's Lightning, unfortunately for him, not currently castable.
Yeah, if he was truly lucky, there would have been a 1-drop underneath that.
Yeah.
Maybe a Skewer the Critics or something he could cast to target Teferi.
But instead, it's going to be Mortify. And that's going to stem the bleeding quite nicely right there. And you can see that Strasky says, this is not going well for me here. He's going to fight it out. But it looks like Savjz has all the answers that he needs, and he's not going to be running short on them thanks to Teferi. Yeah, and he's looking in a good position to take game number 2 from Strasky.
And search for his Kanta, I think it's set to flip next turn, which being at 19 life, a Planeswalker, a flip search, he's in great shape. Now his opponent's putting a 3rd creature on the battlefield, which walks right into the Chaos Wrath in his hand.
Goblin has been doing a pretty good job of keeping Teferi in check, at least on some level, down to 2 loyalty. But the
Goblin's not long for this world.
Right, that's the problem, is that Kaya's Wrath is going to come down here and just sweep away the board.
No time for a break.
Going to go ahead and draw a card with Teferi.
Got to get all the information you can. And there we go. Kaya's Wrath is going to seal the deal. That is Ondrej Strasky quite appropriately conceding the game and forcing game number 3 is Savjz. And look at him. You can see the relief on his face. You saw him look to the skies like, okay, I'm in this. We've got a game 3. Now, David, the way this works, of course, in Duo Standard is the players now, they get a choice. Before, the decks were just assigned at random to them for games 1 and 2, but here they get to choose. What we've seen pretty consistently over the course of the tournament is that when we have 2 players, one with Esper, one with an aggressive deck, they've chosen Esper.
Esper mirrors. Yeah, I actually talked to Savjz after his last match, and I asked, did he consider mono white after the thumping he gave the Esper deck of his previous opponent? And he said, not really. He's like, I don't want to go against Cry the Carnarium. I don't think the matchup is good, even though I won. He's like, maybe I should have, but I wanted to play Esper control mirror. So I think he's likely going to stick with that, because instead of the other deck being mono white, the other option could just be mono red again also. So I think we're going to see him on Esper, and I think we're going to likely see Strasky on Esper also.
All right, this is an elimination match here at the Mythic Invitational. This is going to send the loser of this game home in 4th place.
So we've got the Esper mirror. Savjz is on the play. Strasky's hand doesn't have any blue mana. He's on the draw, but he doesn't have any blue mana. And you want to play Search for Azcanta on turn 2 as early as possible. Obviously, your opponent could have Mortify, but if they don't, it's a huge card in the matchup. He's going to need 2 to cast Absorb, 2 blue mana, so it's a tough hand. I mean, again, you probably are likely in the Esper control mirror. I think he knows that. He's kind of probably checked on what Savjz has picked in this spot. So you do have time. So I think we might see a keep here. It's a tough one. He's thinking about it. Savjz's hand is a keep, it's a no-brainer. You've got 3 lands, you've got all your colors. You do have a dead card in Kaya's Wrath in your hand. Yep, Strasky's going to keep. Going to need a little luck.
Yeah, an early blue source. Hello, my friend. Drowned Catacomb right off the top of the library there.
We've got
from Ondrej Strasky. Boy, he knows how to find those lands right when he needs them, doesn't he?
We've got ourselves a game.
And that means that the search for Azcanta can come down right here and right now, and already kind of put the ball into Savjz's court. Says, hey, you got to deal with this. Now, Savjz has the answer for it. He does have the Mortify. He's not even going to let Strasky get that one look at the top card of his library. He's going to send it packing right away. But still, that's a lot of pressure.
The key thing I'm seeing here is land drops. Strasky has 3 more in hand. Savjz, okay, he needed to draw a land this turn. He was stuck on 3, and that's not where you want to be in the control mirror. Now he can cast Chemist's Insight and maybe find some more lands.
Okay, yeah, that was a big draw step there from
Big
Beach
draw.
finding that land. Now he can fuel his hand here to see if he finds any more.
Okay.
Gosh, he keeps trying it on the very last card possible. But again, he does have the Chemist's Insight in his graveyard and one in his hand now as well. There's a search for his Canton now from Savjz. It is a problem going forward, but again, not a lot else to point these Mortifies at, so they tend to trade off pretty often.
Yeah, and this is a tough spot here. You know, you likely want to protect your search for his Canton. And Savjz could with Absorb, but that'll leave him tapped out. And he knows his opponent will be able to play a 5th land, and if he has a Teferi and a 5th land, Teferi's on the board. And yes, you have Vraska's Contempt. He'll be able to untap 2 lands, but there is 1 negate, I believe, in Strasky's deck. 2 negates and 1
negates. Yeah, I think Savjz has the 1 negate.
Savjz has 1, yes, 2 negates. So it's a tough spot. I think you just want to be patient here. Not likely you want to tap out, and Savjz agrees.
Yeah, smart play there from Savjz. He's just going to say, okay, fine, I'm going to live to fight another day and keep my Absorb at the ready. Land number 5, and with the mana available, Ondrej Strasky just says, go ahead, I'm not going to tap out. Of course, the problem for Strasky being that the exact reverse could happen. He could go Teferi, counter it, untap, his opponent has Teferi, and then all of a sudden he finds himself way behind. So patience is of the essence here, and he's drawn himself a search for his Kanta here, and you can see him counting up the lands on the other side of the battlefield, giving respect to Syncopate here.
Yeah, and you can tell Savjz, he really wanted to land there, so he could possibly cast 2 spells at once. He could cast Kaya and leave up Absorb, but now he doesn't want to tap out, so he was able to play anything. But he can cast Chemist's Insight into turn. Very important card in the mirror. Allows you to hit land drops, get rid of dead cards, such as Kaya's Wrath.
Strasky wisely going to play that land first. That does allow him to pay for a Syncopate if he'd like. As it turns out, no Syncopate in hand here for Savjz, but he does have Absorb, and he's going to fight over this search for his Kanta. And once again, this is similar to the thing that we saw at the end of Savjz's turn, which is, do you want to fight? If Strasky decides he wants to fight, he can open himself up to getting Teferi on the battlefield. But look at the read here from Strasky. He says, I am going to fight over this.
Now, if Savjz drew a Teferi here, it would be really, really incredible because he could play it, possibly draw 6 land off the trigger, untap 2 more, and have Absorb up. But Strasky, he doesn't.
Yeah, took some risk here, and it's a Planeswalker hitting the battlefield, but it is not Teferi here of Dominaria. It's Kaya or Zava Stripper.
It's pretty huge here. It pressures the graveyard, which keeps the search for his Kanta from flipping. Although in these best-of-1 matches, being able to filter off cards such as Moment of Craving and Cast Down gives search for his Kanta a lot of value, but flipping is where it's at. It's not going to happen.
And look at this negate off the top of the library now. For Strasky says, I have enough mana to cast Fairy Hero of Dominaria and counter back. And that means he's going to resolve to Fairy and get this major Planeswalker rolling here. A huge addition to his board.
Yeah, but luckily for Savjz, he has Vraska's Contempt in hand. He just needs to fade Strasky, drawing in the second negate, which he didn't.
Yeah. Strasky has 2 copies of negate, often a card that we do see in the sideboard, and 1 copy in the deck for Savjz. These are some of the important cards. The counter spells matter, and then there's a few cards that each deck has that can actually win the game. And then the rest of the cards kind of don't matter. You can ignore them for the most part, as long as they help you. Anything that helps you get these creatures, or excuse me, these Planeswalkers, or these win conditions going, like Mastermind's Acquisition, those are the ones that are important.
Yeah, so right now, we've got it looks fairly even, but having the Kaya against a search that won't be able to flip is pretty huge.
And this is interesting. Absorb on the top of the library here for Strasky. Normally the type of card that you'd want to see, but he is behind on board to Kaya, so an Absorb might not get him there.
Wow, Mastermind's Acquisition's a big draw.
Wow, down to a swamp for Strasky. Is he finally up against it where he can't win when facing elimination?
He's got mana left over. He could get Unmoored Ego the Teferis out of Strasky's deck, and that'll leave him with just 1 Mastermind's Acquisition. Yep, here we go.
That's exactly what he's doing, David. Unmoored Ego goes on the stack for Savjz. This is a huge play with no way to interact for Strasky. You can see the pain on his face. He hates seeing this critical card when you have so limited number of cards in your deck that can actually win you the game. If you get this many of them stripped away, it's going to leave Strasky with almost no way to win.
He's going to have 1 Kaya and 1 Mastermind's Acquisition.
And there go all the Teferis now. Savjz has stripped them away.
It also
knows that it's just a swamp in hand now.
And it gives you some breathing room, right? You know your opponent can't just top deck that Teferi, so you can play a little looser. You can tap out. You can take more risk.
perhaps lucky there for Strasky as well. It also shuffled away that absorb, which I don't really think he wanted to draw anymore at that point. But this is just a terrible spot for him. As you mentioned before as well, the search for his content, that thing's not going to flip anytime soon because Kaya is just going to town on Strasky's graveyard.
Yeah, and Savjz has 2 Chemister's Insights hanging out in the graveyard, ready to be jump-started.
Well, let's get this engine running here because there's the first one, a backup to Teferi as well, and the play pattern from here is not pretty. If you're sitting in Ondrej Strasky's seat, Savjz now gets to continue to plus Kaya, and next turn we will see Teferi. And a Cry of the Carnarium is not what Strasky wanted to see off the top of the library. That means that Savjz is going to be able to resolve Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, if he'd like. And that is one step much closer to advancing to the next round and leaving Ondrej Strasky in 4th place.
Yeah, first he's going to jumpstart that Insight. Vraska's Contempt now to deal with the one Kaya in Strasky's deck.
There it is. Teferi, Hero of Dominaria hits the battlefield, and this is going to be a critical one-turn window here. As what does Savjz see off of it? A Thought Erasure. That's not going to do anything here, and his hand not looking good. It's all blanks for Savjz. Now, very much has the advantage thanks to his 2 Planeswalkers, but there is a one-turn window here where Strasky could find some answer for Teferi and maybe claw his way back in. But boy, he has so few win conditions and so few outs at this point. It's looking really bad for Strasky.
Even if he drew his acquisition, I don't know what he would do right here. I mean, I think he would have to just draw Vraska's Contempt.
That's what I think he wanted.
Get rid of the Teferi, but looking at his list, he's only got 1 Vraska's Contempt in it. I believe he may have casted this game.
Okay, yeah, and we should be just about done here then. There's Syncopate off the top of the library there for Savjz. What does he have? Now another Kaya's Wrath off of the Teferi, but Teferi's loyalty starting to go upwards, and right now Kaya is going to start getting scary as well. If you're sitting in Strasky's seat, this one may have slipped away from him.
Yeah, if you look at the body language of the player, Strasky's got kind of a smirk, like he kind of knows what's happening. He knows what his fate is.
What do you think he's thinking about?
Where he's going to spend that 40,000.
I like that.
It's not a bad day, you know. I mean, it's unfortunate to not go further. I've been there in competitive events, but nice little payday. I think he'll be all right.
Maybe get him to the next tournament. Syncopate hits the graveyard. There's an Absorb off the top of the library, but that is far too late given what we see on board. And that is the problem that Ondrej Strasky faces here from Savjz, applying massive pressure with his pair of Planeswalkers. And Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, keeps on ticking upwards.
7.
Teferi's at 7. In another turn, he'll be at 8, and then we could see an ultimate from Teferi. And once permanents start getting exiled from Strasky's side, it'll be over.
So there's 15 cards in exile, and Kaya's at 10. Ultimate's 5. Each one does a damage per card in exile, so that's 30. So I think we're likely going to see -5 next turn to put him at 8, and -5 again. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, he's going to disable emote so that he can say good game, because this is Savjz winning the round, and look at that smile on his face. He is going to advance and knock Ondrej Strasky out of the tournament in 4th place. Still an incredible run for Ondrej. Congratulations, Ondrej, on your top 4 finish here.
I'm here with Savjz. Savjz just showed me his hand, and it's actually shaking. Tell us how you're feeling.
I'm feeling amazing, but I want to first give a shout out to Ondrej Strasky. What a story. Through the open qualifiers, he made it all the way here. Amazing player, amazing guy. I'm sure he will be back. I'm feeling amazing right now. It's just, I don't know, but there's just something about playing like a single game with so much on the line. Like $35,000 Esper mirror right there, minimum. And maybe like 200,000. It's
Very, very high stakes, a lot of money, and now you are guaranteed at least $70,000, which is insane. Are you gonna spend it on your stream, or are you gonna maybe get into tabletop magic? What are you thinking?
I don't want to think about that right now. I wanna first know what the final amount is gonna be. I wanna focus on my games. I'm not thinking about the money. I also want the title. It means a lot to me. Being the first Mythic champion from a Magic Arena would be something that doesn't shake off easily.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about your pairing. So you're going to play Goglaski in just a moment. He's got the mono blue and the mono red. What's the ideal pairing for you? Now, it is randomly determined.
I don't know. We'll just see how it works out. I don't want to think about that too much. let's just get into the games. I'm ready.
All right, very cool. Now, one last question. You are the newcomer here. You've got 2 MPL players left in it. Does that make you nervous, or does that make you kind of excited that you are the one that was left standing?
I think I knocked out like 3 Grand Prix winners, 2 world champions, 2 Hall of Famers, and I lost count. I don't know. I'm not scared. I'm just ready for it.
Well, you've done an amazing job so far. We've got some claps from the audience here, so there's a lot of people rooting for you. All right, thanks so much. Congratulations on getting in the top 3. We're going to go to a quick word from our sponsors, but stay tuned because we're going to find out who's going to win that $250,000 prize in our Mythic Invitational.